32 neighborhoods. He earned an MBA from Virginia Commonwealth University and a bachelor's degree from California University of Pennsylvania, also known as Penn West. He is a graduate of the Leadership Academy, American Public Transportation Association. Today, he will tell us about his visions for the future of Lane Transit District. Judging from his well-established habit of collaboration, you might hear some familiar ideas reflecting your input from conversations with him. Jameson.
Thank you for that nice welcome. I was slow getting up the steps. We had leg day twice this week. Stairs hurt, chairs hurt, hurts to sit, hurts to stand, hurts to do all the things. Happy to be here today with you. I think I was here in the beginning of my tenure, and we talked about some things, and they were kind of up here. Now we're going to bring it down a little bit and closer to the ground. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge two of the board members from LTD that are here, Susan Cox, who represents the southwest part of Eugene, and Pete Knox, who represents where we sit right here today. I'd also like to, if you have any technical questions, operational questions, this is leadership right here. I'm delegating to the team that's in the audience right now. Michael Hirsch is in the tan jacket, just joined us. He's our Chief Operating Officer. John Allen oversees our ride source programs, and the illustrious Brianna is here as well as the board administrator, my former assistant. So she upgraded and left me. But anyway, very happy to be here. Want to talk a bit about LTD. Want to talk about some of the exciting things that we're experiencing. It's truly not the fact that it's all LTD. I think the wonderful thing about this community is the people that are in it and the people that are pulling on the ropes. We all see that we have some challenges. We all see that we have some opportunities. But as I look around the room, you know, I see Travel Lane County here. I see Scorpion Creek Ranch. You know, I see Damon. You know, I see people here who are all civically engaged, who want to make things better. And that's been the piece that really helps us to do what we do at Lane Transit District. And I got to tell you, if you've not heard of Scorpion Creek Ranch, you should check that out. It's a new concept, and it'll blow your mind. And Katie's here, she can talk about that as well. But as for LTD, let's jump right in. Of course, we have the obligatory bus picture. There's no people, just bus. You see these buses running around. That's what you know us for. The rest of the slides are going to be, hopefully, people. Oh, there's some words. So this is our mission and our vision and our core values. Our mission is connecting community, and we really take that seriously. And you know, we're standing in Eugene, and we have a lot of service in Eugene and Springfield, but really our charge is Lane County. So we look at how do we connect Lane County, how do we do that along with willing partners like the folks over at LCOG who handle a lot of the rural transportation that connects in to Eugene and connects along the coast. I think it's important that we look at it as a system. So how is the system functioning and how can we make it better? And that's how we connect our community. And our values, of course, respect, integrity, innovation, equity, collaboration, and safety. Not in any particular order of importance, because safety would have been first. Okay, so today we're going to talk about LTD Now. We're going to give an update on where we are in terms of our activities within Eugene. And we're going to have an ask. You know, what do we need to help move the system forward from you all? They tease me about my clicker work. I think I'm doing okay. It's easy here. So in terms of the key metrics around the organization, and these are typical transit agency metrics that you'll hear. We do about more than 6 million rides or trips a year. And you know, when we first got here, we had a big growth in 2023. We went up about 20%. Last year, we went up about 6%. This year, we're flat. We're about 0.5%, so we consider that flat, and we'll get to that a little bit later. We have about 360 employees. We have some of the best employees that you'll find around the county. When I first came here, the overwhelming sense to serve community was what came across to me clearly. So that's a good thing, and we value our employees tremendously. Mary mentioned that we negotiated several labor contracts. We did, and you know, we're proud of our relationship with our labor group. which is ATU, and we work as a partnership. We don't butt heads a lot. We have our occasional things, but we generally get through our discussions, our big discussions, really, in a timely manner. So I appreciate that relationship. We have about 113 vehicles. Close to 30% of those are battery electric buses. Have you ever been on a battery electric bus? Yeah, we have some of those. We're buying more buses. They're not going to be battery electric. I'll get into that later, and I'll tell you the why, and nothing to be alarmed about, okay? In terms of our paratransit service, we do about 110,000 trips a year on that service. Our paratransit service is different than other transit systems. ADA paratransit is really an unfunded mandate from the federal government. So what that means is anywhere there's a fixed route bus, when that's running, anything 3/4 of a mile around that, you have to provide ADA paratransit. Very expensive service to run, not funded. Many transit systems don't talk about it. They do the bare minimum to not get a wrist slap from the feds when they get checked up on. However, we're proud that we have a system here that goes well beyond. We have ADA paratransit, we have microtransit, we have different services that take you where you need to be, and we continue to invest in that area. So we're proud of the program that we have here and that the community allows us to invest in. And we recognize that these stats are traditional agency stats, but I have to start with those. Now, the cool stuff, outcomes, right, outcomes. So we recently did a trip to Washington, and this community, again, the collaboration is unique in that the visits to the Hill are coordinated. So we coordinate along with the city, Eugene, and Springfield, and Council of Governments, and other entities to talk about what's needed in the community. And we talk about it from a sense of what is it like as a system, right? What is it like as a system? And when you think about your transit system, I can talk to you about ridership all day long. But the real beauty of it is, what are the outcomes? And how do those outcomes of that expenditure relate to the priorities that exist in our community? So we talk about those a lot, and we're working with groups to look at what are non-traditional metrics that we can use and share with the community that are easily digestible, make sense, and we can actually track around the areas of access to jobs, access to education, healthcare services, and housing options. We'll talk about that a bit as well. I told you that our ridership was flat. So what we're doing now is we're starting to go into a process that we've branded LTD Connect 2045. And what that is, it's our long-range mobility plan. Years back, it would have been our long-range transit plan. But we acknowledge that, again, it's a system. A bus is a big part of it. So is bike share, so is pedestrian, so is carpool, so is vanpool. So is driving your own vehicle from time to time. Okay, let's be honest. So how do we create a mobility plan that takes into consideration the goals of the jurisdictions and the citizens that we serve here, right? So how does it impact climate goals? How does it impact congestion goals? And how do we leverage all of the pieces of that system to work well together? So we'll be kicking that off. We also had a community engagement framework that we created. A few years back, do you remember there was some excitement along the River Road corridor related to MX? Okay, we'll just call it excitement. Yeah, so out of that, we kind of pumped the brakes, and we put together a 26-member steering committee that had not one LTD person on it. We got external people to participate. Our planning team, our operations team served as a resource for that group. And what came out of that was an approach for how we communicate with our communities and how we move forward with our outreach. Our board adopted that the summer of '24, and we're operationalizing that right now. So our commitment to the community is to always frame what we're trying to solve at the front end, look at a range of possibilities to address what those issues are, but then not have that fully baked where the community doesn't have an opportunity to express what they feel is appropriate. And then we'll take that and we'll implement, we'll plan and we'll implement, and then we'll measure and then come back and share clear results and reassess. So that's part of what came out of that, and we're proud to do that. We're operationalizing that right now, so we'll be reconvening that committee probably in June to say, here's where we are, what do you think, and then move forward. And then finally, we're doing a systems review that takes a look at how are we doing today. And out of that, we hear a lot of calls for service. We hear calls for service out of Creswell. We hear calls for service in Cottage Grove. We hear calls for service right here in South Eugene. And we're aware of those things. What this system review does, it looks at what's running right now, how is it running, how can we make tweaks to make it run more efficient. That helps to set us up to go into that long-range mobility plan, and then eventually possibility of system redesign. As you know, we're a hub and spoke system. You come into downtown and you go where you need to go, but Beltline often gets you there faster. Would you agree? So we're looking at how do we put service out there that helps us compete with the automobile from a travel time standpoint. So those are some things that we're looking at right now. And in this picture, you'll see someone you know right in the front. She took the time over 2 days to spend some time with us to talk about outcomes. And I believe we were talking about housing outcomes that day. No, we're talking about workforce outcomes that day, because Lane Workforce Partnership is way in the back. I can see Ashley's head a little bit in there. And that was a day where we brought groups in to talk about those 4 areas: jobs, education, health, and housing. And we had half-day chunks, and we're talking about metrics and really how do we intersect with the work that they're doing. And that was a good day. And we're going to reconvene them as well this summer, right before we go into a board retreat. So when I talk about the community, and you hear Mary talk about me engaging the community, it is the other way around. It's the community engaging us, and we're thankful for that. Here you see a bus and some people. So we're going to talk about some Eugene updates here. So we have some improvements coming in the fall, coming out of that system review. There'll be some changes to some of the routes, some of them to add more frequency, some to increase more access to apartments for jobs-related trips over in West Eugene and in North Eugene and more. So you'll be seeing those roll out. Actually, they're already in place now, so if you have any questions on that, happy to engage. But again, these are designed to make the system more efficient so that we can get to another level in how we do that. You may have heard that there's a potentially new YMCA coming to town. Yeah. So we sold our Hunsaker property, big, almost 5-acre plot on River Road, and we listened to the neighborhood associations before we did anything, and we heard what they want. They were not silent about what they wanted. They knew what they wanted. They were very good at communicating that, and I appreciate that. And we were looking at doing one project, and it just didn't work out. And then the CEO of YMCA invited me to lunch, and he showed up with a tie on. I have a tie on for you all. Usually I wouldn't have this tie on a Friday. But he showed up with a tie on, and I didn't have a tie on, and I figured, okay, so now we're going to do business. And that's where he broached that concept. And it's good because we feel it's an asset to that corridor. We feel it's an asset to those communities. There's also a relatively 7-year-old, 8-year-old transit station right next to it, and it helps to densify that corridor. So we're going to have conversations around how do we leverage the assets that are already there, that are going there, and how do we help to support what the city wants to do in terms of safety improvements for that corridor. If you ever ride our Route 51 or 52, you'll see, especially during the school year, you'll see a lot of students ride our buses. A lot. They're going there, they're going to Sheldon. They use our buses, and when I see them cross that street at that intersection, it can be a little hairy. So we're hoping that also helps to give some cover and some support for making the safety improvements that need to be there. We're certainly, we've kind of put the pin in putting MX there. We have 2 routes that run up and down that corridor, and we can look at the frequency of those routes as they exist. But we feel that the safety, from a system standpoint, the safety needs to be raised on that corridor. And finally, future development. We're in alignment with the governor's focus on housing and housing stock. Now we're not a bunch of carpenters. We don't build houses, but there is a concept called transit-oriented demand or oriented design development that allows us to do that kind of stuff, but we're not ready. We're not ready. So what we're doing is we're looking at other opportunities. 1059 Willamette happens to be directly across the street from Eugene Station. Is there a way to tie in a monthly mobility pass, whether it's just with LTD, or if it's incorporated in bike share, or if it's incorporated with TNCs, that is attached to the monthly rent of some of those apartments? And how much does that help people save on their monthly costs by giving them access to an asset that's directly across the street? So we're thinking about those things as well. How do we leverage what's there and support what's going on within our community? We're continuing to track new and upcoming housing. There's in West Eugene, again, a lot of apartments just past where our MX line stops, and to the west of that. We see there's a ton of apartments there. There used to be bus service there. There's modifications to that in the plans. The Route 36, I believe, would be extended to go and serve that area. So we're definitely trying to tie how we provide service, where we provide service, and why we're providing it. And it's a group effort, and we're happy to be a part of those conversations. And then finally, you may have noticed that there's some design going on. There's some activity going on with the riverfront right here, and there's no service there. Part of the challenge there is that the streets are a little narrow. So what we're starting to do now, we're going to do rather, is we're going to do a riverfront downtown Eugene circulator. Now, this was part of a plan that the city did to look at how to serve that area, how to serve the housing there. We're going to modify one of our existing routes to serve that area and see how that goes. And then we may, based on how that goes, and we'll look at other opportunities there as well. What do we need from you? What's the ask? We need your voices. We need your input. When I first got here, one of the things that I heard was that, or not from this group, but from my conversations around the community, and I've had a lot of them, LTD creates the system to support the system itself, or LTD doesn't take in the community input to help build the system. Or LTD is making decisions in a vacuum, your board's not elected, your job should be elected. So what we've done is we've said, okay, we want to listen, we want to build with the community. So how many of you have been on the bus in the last month? If you work for LTD, put your hand down. Okay. Yeah, I've got a little sway on the LTD folks. All right, so we'd like to see more hands go up. We like to see more hands go up because we want to know what your experience is to get you there. Now, we already know that, and I can tell you this, from my house, I have a couple different options. I can jump on a bike path and I can get to my office in about 22 minutes on a non-motorized bicycle. All right, I'm not the guy zipping around, you going 30 miles an hour. I'm struggling and sweating and cussing under my breath. But I can get in my car and be there in about 9 minutes. Not 10, literally 9 minutes, Or I can get on the bus and be there in about 45. I go from where I live into downtown, get to MX, take it back out, and then have to walk from Franklin Boulevard. That's a problem. For me, part of that's work, right? Because I'm getting on, okay, 45 minutes, I'm assessing how the stops are, I'm looking at how many people are on. And that's work for me, but for someone going, a mom with several kids or a single father with several kids, they may not have an hour and a half to get back and forth to work in a community where you can be in a lot of places in 15 minutes. You can be in a lot of places in 15 minutes. People ask me all the time, what's it like moving here from Kansas City? Yeah, I got to tell you, last time I went to Kansas City and I was driving, I couldn't wait to get back here. I could not wait to get back here. At the end of the day, what I found, no matter where we've lived, whether it's Kansas City or Richmond or even outside of Philadelphia, you live in your 3-mile bubble, basically. I go to my grocery store within this, area. I get all my medical pieces. I do my exercising. I just live in that area. Same thing here. We live in the area. The only difference is the time gets you much farther. You can be where you want to be. So for us, making sure that the time of travel to get people where they need to be is critical. And we hear things like what are the amenities? What are the amenities that will make people want to use buses? What we've learned in the industry is 2 things: time of travel and frequency. So when I'm walking from my office to catch the MX, the very worst thing that can happen is I'm half a block from the stop and the MX goes by. I gotta wait another 10 minutes. I can do that, right? But I don't look at my watch before I leave because I know it's coming every 10 minutes. You know, if we get it down to 8 minutes, great. If we get it down to 5 minutes, that's a lot of money. But if we got it down to 5 minutes, fine. But when you go to New York or when you go to Washington and you get on the train system, you're not concerned about on-time performance. If you miss that train, it's coming in 4 more minutes. You know, if you ever fly into Reagan, you know, the sucker play is to get a hotel, unless you have big bags, or to get a taxi to your hotel, rather. Get on the train. The train's going to be there in 4 minutes. And even if you see it pull away, the next one's coming in 4 minutes. And that's what makes people use transit, that and then the safety component. So let's talk about safety for a little bit. Safety has been a thing that we hear about in our community, and we address in several different ways. And one of the ways that we address is, yes, we invest in public safety officers. Our current budget includes more public safety officers. They are public safety, they are not law enforcement. We have access to law enforcement when we need law enforcement, but we have public safety officers. What's the difference? We invest in our public safety officers to handle the unique challenges that we have here today. And one of those is, you know, we're a part of the community, so we look at how do we serve our community. One of the things that we've done over the past year was we created a position called a community liaison, and this person joined us previously in a nonprofit and spent some time in a low barrier shelter to get the understanding on what that looks like, and is very active in the houseless community. And she helps us to understand how to implement policy. So she's worked with our public safety team to say, hey, if this happens, this may be the cause of why that individual is acting up. Maybe they need a bottle of water, or maybe they need a protein bar, and the problem's gone. You don't have to stretch EPD's resources. It takes care of that. Maybe this person has soiled them, and we do carry water and other things in that regard as well from that person's advice. Maybe the person needs a change of clothing or needs to clean up. We were able to work with, again, another group to provide these huge body wipes that people use. Now, I got to tell you, when I first saw that, in my mind, I'm going, what is that? I was down Eugene Station, and a person said, the people on the bus don't like how I smell, and there's nothing I can do about it. And the public safety officer gave him one of the wipes. He was able to do what he needed to do and get on his way. Another thing that stops people from riding public transportation is shoes, the lack of shoes. We had a rash of people who were being released from the hospital, and they didn't have shoes, so they couldn't ride the bus. Safety issue, right? So if we rank those values, safety would be number one. So safety issues. So our community liaison officer found a quick solution. For $1 a pair, we have these really thin slippers that have rubber soles that are compliant with our safety policy. The interesting thing about these slippers is they're the same slippers that are used in the Hamptons to get millionaire and billionaires from the beach to the mansion. Okay, we're with the health community. We're providing those to Peace Health, and Peace Health is distributing them, and now people can get back and forth on the bus. We don't have to turn them away, or we don't have to delay them to get some other form of transportation. Simple solutions that are community-based. So that's one of the ways that we handle safety. We did reinvest in camera systems at our locations, which are good. We find that people have, we do a lot of surveying, and we found out that people have concerns around waiting for buses, and it's a different concern when they're on the bus. So what we've done is, now we can better support people while they're waiting for the bus. We have a new surveillance system coming on our bus, so we'll be able to better support them while they're on the bus as well. So we're making those efforts that way, and that helps out quite a bit. Finally, the other piece is we want to be at the table. So you heard the boards that I'm on. The rest of the executive team are on boards as well. except the one that I just took his place from Travel Lake County. That's a little joke for us. But we, we're on boards, and our goal is to engage. Whether we're on the agenda or not, our goal is to engage. Sam Kelly Q is here. He's our government relations person. Sam tracks when we have each of the neighborhood association meetings, and we have staff that are assigned to go to those, teams that go to those. Not because, we want to be nosy on the agenda, but we just want to be present so you all see, hey, LTD is here, and maybe you have a question. Like the gentleman here had a question for me earlier today. Maybe you have a question, and then when we have a concept that we want to take to you, now we're not strangers, right? Now we're part of you. We're part of the community. So we're continuing to do that. That's what we'd like from you all. That's what we'd like from you all. We issued the challenge. There's a QR code. They tell me the QR code works. I didn't test it before I came up here, but I think it does work. We issued a challenge to try the bus service. But not just that, try the bus service, try taking a walk, try renting a bicycle, try riding your own bicycle in one of the bike lanes, and tell us your experience so we can bake that into the planning that we're about to do. We're spending quite a bit of money to get this right. If you know me, I'm an impatient kind of person. So I'm going to be impatient to get to the planning, which is odd for me to say out loud. But the planning does matter in how we serve our organization. People commute differently. We have quite a few people that work from home. We have, the pandemic has taught us to reprioritize what's important in our lives. So people are using all kinds of services differently. So we're trying to figure out how we best meet the new need for public transportation. So if you can take the challenge, if you can go out and try one of the modes, that would be helpful for us. And that's our ask, is that you tell us if we did good. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this. We'll interpret each of them. That was a thumbs up, thumbs to the side, or thumbs down for those who can't see me. The other piece that we're looking for is bus operators. I know we had a conversation around that. We're looking for bus operators. We're looking for people who not just know how to drive a bus. We can teach you that. The trainers taught me how to drive a bus one day. I ran over a bunch of cones, but I think if they gave me another chance, I could do it. I think I could do it. But that's the easy part. The harder part is having that customer service experience and persona. We tell our bus operators at every training class and graduation, intro and graduation, they're the brand of LTD. It's not me. I mean, it's me when something goes different or something goes really well, right? But each day, those 6 million rides over the year, it's the bus operator. And we've got a ton of stories about them. We had a bus operator who just recently saw a little kid out early in the morning and, stopped and rendered help and, got the authorities involved and found out the kid snuck out of the house while his mom was sleeping. Got him back to where he needed to be. I think he was about 4 or 5. Got him back to where he needed to be. We have operators who see people that may be out of place, and that's just not here. I have stories from Kansas City, stories from Richmond. Mike has stories from California. These folks who are driving your buses are more than bus operators. They're eyes and ears of the community, and they really have their pulse on what's going on. Same thing with RideSource, our paratransit service. They really have a firm understanding on what Mrs. Jones needs. When my schedule says I'm supposed to wait 5 minutes, but I know she needs 6 or 7 or 8, and I'm going to go help her. They do that. They do that here. So that's fantastic. So we have needs for people who have that in their hearts, and we're looking to hire 50 new operators this year. Retirement is a beautiful thing, right? We should get there, but it's hurting me right now. And we can't ban it. No, we want to bring more people in so we can grow the service. The service you see today was reduced back during the pandemic. So what we're doing is trying to grow. It's kind of the reverse of some other transit systems who are going through their pains now. We're positioned differently. So we're adding more operators. We're adding more mechanics. We're adding the pieces that we need to run a service that we run. And I learned a long time ago, there's only 3 things. It's someone to drive it, someone to fix it, and the machine. And everyone else, we're add-ons. I like to think we're good add-ons, but we're add-ons. So we're hiring those operational pieces to make sure that we're able to meet the needs of the community. So if you know anyone who wants a good job where they could raise a family, put a kid through college, buy a house, if the prices come down just a little bit here, we'll help work on that. We're the place to be. We're the place to be. We have a good labor agreement. We have a very fair labor agreement. We are in good financial shape. A lot of the transit systems are talking about financial cliffs. You know, they're going to fall off this cliff in the next year or the year after that. We have a financial curb. It's about that big, and it happens in 2033. So if we can't fix it between now and 2033, then that's a whole different set of issues, right? So we've done well with how we've taken an approach to our financing your money. So we're in a position to really serve the community. So I'll kind of stop there. No, what? I won't. I'm going to go just one more second. In July, we have a couple services that are going to launch to serve our rural communities. And we talked about outcomes a bit, and one of the health outcomes I just want to talk about for 1 second is food insecurity. We've heard a lot about food insecurity, and we have a on-demand program that's going to serve south of Cottage Grove, part of Marcola, and part of Mapleton on different days to be able to connect people with healthy food options, and we're going to measure for that. Now, the other ask I'll say is there's a lot of that need in the community. In our county, if you look at the United Way ALICE report, which is the asset limited, income constrained, employed, working, can't make ends meet, some communities are 70, 72, and 74% of households in that boat. And we're trying to solve with that lens in place. So as we put together, as the legislature puts together the transportation package, the funds that support those programs are critical, and we're having those conversations now. So I'm not asking you to make any phone calls, I'm not asking you to do any of that, but I am asking you to keep that in mind, that those critical services are needed throughout our county, and that's what we're here to do along with many of our partners. So with that, I'll be quiet.
Thank you very much, Jameson. We'll begin question and answer in just a moment, but first, a special thank you to our award-winning public radio station, KLCC FM 89.7, for airing City Club programs Monday nights at 7 p.m. For those listening at home or in the car or on the bus right now, your household is one of several thousand tuning into City Club on KLCC, and we love that you're here. You can also find all recent City Club programs archived on KLCC as well as on our YouTube channel and as podcasts. We'll take a brief break and be back for questions. Thank you. City Club of Eugene and our conversation with LTD CEO Jameson Auten. First question.
All right, so my name is Erica, and I'm a frequent rider of LTD since 2007. So I have a lot of questions and comments, so many that I had to write them all down. So bear with me, please. So the first is there are many routes that get at the bus station 5 minutes after the other ones are scheduled to leave. And I've raised this complaint multiple times. I've written many customer service cards over it. And I just think that, you know, there should be like something that could be done about that. Maybe you're talking about frequency, like being one. Maybe if the buses just ran more often, I wouldn't have to wait like 25 minutes at the bus for, you know, the station for the next bus. And then I ride 41 in particular, and of course, like this one has this problem. It takes me like over an hour and a half just to get from my spot kind of in Dana Bow and Royal over to a garden off of Coburg Road to volunteer. That's like 1.5 hours each way to get there and to get back. So that's like 3 hours a day just to get to a place where I volunteer. So I kind of think it's a little bit ridiculous. So I'm hoping that that'll change. Not to mention, so in the summer, I work on a blueberry farm over in Alvador. And so I think the Route 41 would be better served if that segment between Terry and Green Hill on Barger resumes service. I know it used to have service, and I go out there on my bike sometimes, so even just like that little bit of space would help a lot in like, you know, just, you know, getting a little bit more, you know, of a shorter ride all the way out there, because
Great.
I know there are a lot of people that live in the neighborhoods there too.
Let's give Jameson a chance to talk about some of these things. Frequency, routing, and how you think about those issues.
So first off, thank you for being a rider since 2007. You know, I'm sure you've seen the good and the bad. You're talking about the Pulse downtown. So the Pulse is when all the buses come into Eugene Station, and then they leave, right? So it kind of goes in and goes out. We've been having challenges with that lately for a variety of reasons. One, driver shortages. Two, road construction. So there was some construction with the streets over the past summer that kind of slowed some things down, so that made it problematic. That said, I'm not going to sell you a bunch of excuses. We're looking at that now. We're looking at how that works and the efficiency of that. So I agree with your comments there, and I want to thank you for sharing those. But what you're talking about with the ride time, that's exactly what we're looking at. How do we reduce that time to get from point A to point B and make it a feasible opportunity? Now, you're different. You're a little unique. You've stuck with us for, 17, 18 years with those issues. These other people, I can't sell them on that. So, we have to look at that. So I appreciate your comments, and we're going to be working on it. And then your last comment, what was your third one? I'm sorry.
Oh, it was like, I think the segment from, on Barger between Terry and Green Hill, because I know there's like, there are a lot of homes that live along that route, that segment, and it used to be served. And, it used to go all the way down to that roundabout and come back. And so I kind of missed that service, and then that would make it so that, you wouldn't have such a long gap at the bus station, because if that, if that route is already long, let's, at least make it kind of worth it.
Sure. Can you do me a favor? Can you give your contact information to the young lady behind you in the green? And I'll share that with our planning folks, and they can talk to you directly on that issue in terms of where we're at.
Okay, perfect. Then I have a lot of other issues too. Can I?
And we will get to those after the show. You can corner Jameson, and
Okay.
I'm sure he'll answer
Okay,
more of them.
perfect.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kelly.
Hi, Kelly Johnson, City Club member. Thank you so much for being here. I was recently in conversation with a lot of the leaders of performing arts complexes in downtown Eugene, which often patrons have trouble parking at. And so taking the bus would be a really great option if you're going to the show at the OCT or the Shed or the Holt. But the timings kind of don't align. Sometimes the shows get out kind of late, or they're on the weekends when service is shortened. Is that something that the downtown connector could help with?
Possibly. Sometimes it's difficult to align service to specific events. So what we'll look at is, what are the ridership counts? And then this is where we need folks to interject, because we want to be a part of the solution. And I know that, I appreciate the arts, and we do a series of music events at our stations. And part of the reason for that is to get a more positive vibe into the community, and those are received well. We do those both in Eugene and in Springfield. So if we're able to leverage what's going on in other places, I think it's important. I think looking at the vitality of downtown and what we can do to help serve downtown is critical. One of my hats is on the board of Eugene Chamber, and Eugene Chamber is working on a downtown plan to look at how do we increase residents and access to activities in downtown. So we're working on those things. So if you just stay plugged in, I'm sure we can get there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Doug Bovee here, City Club member. Thank you for a really helpful presentation. In the spirit of a question, I'm going to offer an idea, but I'd love your input on the idea. The idea is combining safety and this apartment complex, new building, Willamette, right across the street. We need a sky bridge across the Willamette.
Okay.
Bill Cleppinger, City Club member. Question first, where do you get your money?
Oh, a couple of different places. So for our capital purchases, our buses and things, a lot of that's federal money. Some of that is used for operational money. We get payroll taxes as well, so that comes in to support us. And then we use the STIF funding, which is also derived from a payroll tax.
Okay, so how much comes from riders?
So that's a great question. So that's called farebox recovery, and right now it's about 4%.
Wow, okay.
Now, yeah, that's not, yeah. So one, not untypical. Two, we're doing some things to correct for that. Our heaviest ridership is on our MX line, particularly between the two stations, about 40% of our trips. We just recently put on validators on each of those trips. So you tap your card, it counts your trip, and makes sure that you've paid your fare. We're also redeploying, that's just the technology side, we're redeploying our public safety folks to do more fare checks. The challenge with MX is that it has rail-like qualities without the turnstiles, right? So if I jump a turnstile and get on, that's how I get on in any city. MX has the same kind of features as rail, but without the turnstile. So we have to figure out how we increase that number, so that percentage, so that it goes up.
So my last point is, I live just off of Coburg Road, and there's two long buses. They're not the double ones, I don't think, but one comes right behind the other. I think one goes to Valley River and the other one goes to Gateway. And it's like, why are there two of them? And there's usually either no or two riders on them. It's like these big buses, and it's like, why can't you have like a small jitney or something instead of these great big buses running around?
That's a great question. We get that as well. First off, you're talking about the Route 67 or 66 and the 12. So we have good service along Coburg, and we have a lot of congestion on Coburg as well. Yeah. So imagine if you're trying to get to Gateway, we cut it down to one route, you're going to have the lady who asked her first question saying, hey, you're riding me to Valley River, then you're taking me all the way down through John Brown's barn to get all the way over here. So what those routes do is they go down Coburg, and then one goes up Country Club, right, and the other one goes the other way. And it helps, yeah. And quite interesting, both those routes have very good ridership. Our systems review did suggest some modification to that Route 12 that comes down by Costco to go a little bit further, and that will save us some time and effort on those other routes. In terms of those big vehicles, it's by time of day. So if you jump on those in the morning, I ride with the Sheldon students a lot, and it's full. And they're good. If anyone has any students at Sheldon, they're good kids. Those are full and coming back as well. So by time of day, and we're also going to be asking people to come ride with us, because we get that question a lot. And a lot of times you'll see an empty bus towards the end of its route because people have on and off. But, where you're talking about, it's kind of in the middle. So, so that's a good conversation. Unless it's the 12, if it's the 12, it's at the end and it's circling back. So, yeah.
So finally, I want to say a really good presentation. Thank you.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
Hi, my name is Eric Jura, and I'm a City Club member. That's right, this is City Club. Okay, electric buses. So a lot of people, when they hear that you're purchasing electric buses and using them, think, well, that's a great idea because from an environmental perspective, a somewhat naive environmental perspective, that's a great idea. But any technology, including electric buses, comes with compromises and other considerations, like how well do they work, how reliable are they, how efficient are they, those kinds of things. And so Lane Transportation District is embarked on using electric buses, which I think is a great idea, but what just, in a capsule, and now that you've had some experience with those, do you think it was a good thing to do? I mean, what were some of the pluses and minuses of doing that?
Yeah, I think zero emission is a good idea on surface. I think we were a little early into the game. The technology is not quite there, particularly for these buses. And it's not all on the technology side, it's also environmental. So here, we get a lot of rain, water gets into the battery packs, that creates a warning, and you have to figure that part out. When it gets cold, your range gets lower. When it gets hot, your range gets lower. When you got a full load, your range gets lower. So imagine, and Mike used this illustration recently, imagine going on a family vacation and you realize, on this day I can go 120 miles, but now it's 100 degrees, I'm going to run the air conditioner, I can only go 80 on the next day. You can't plan for that. So we're looking at using diesel buses. That's what we got approval for. The diesel we use is what's called R99. So it's 99% renewable, old fryer grease and other things, okay? And what we found out is that the biggest thing that we can do for climate improvements is to grow ridership and actually get that mode conversion, whether we're getting on our bus or riding a bike or walking. That's why we have that challenge. We want to hear your feedback because those are the biggest things that we can do. The diesel we use is clean. The electric is even better. But the issue with the electric is the buses are so much more expensive. I could have a parking lot full of them. You all will pay for a parking lot full of them, and then we won't be able to afford people to drive them or fix them. So there'll be big paperweights that we can't deliver on the service. So that's one of the issues.
I suspected that was the answer, and my niece was a lawyer for a company, Proterra, which is an electric bus maker, and same kind of thing. It was just the technology is too early. They're out of business now.
Oh yeah.
Now they had big plans and so forth. And it may still come. We may improve the technology, but it's tough right now. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that question.
Hi, thanks for being here. Nancy Buffum, I'm a City Club member. My question is about cooperating with other agencies on a specific area. Accessibility and bus stops. In Eugene, in some parts of Eugene, and probably in the rest of the county, it's difficult to get to a bus stop if you're a person with a mobility impairment because of lack of sidewalks or poor sidewalks. And I'd just love for you to say something about how you're working with Public Works or planners or transit people in Eugene about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That path of travel to access the system is critical. ADA compliant sidewalks, curb cuts, signaling is all critical to being used the system. We talk with Public Works frequently. We have a good relationship over with that crew. There's a relatively new Public Works director in Eugene, and whenever they're doing their sidewalk improvements or their crosswalk improvements, we do have a bit of a voice at the table, even with discussions on redesigning some of the roads here for safety purposes. We have that at the table. So we'll continue to move in that way, but huge proponent of that. The other piece is we talked about paratransit just a little bit. The paratransit system that we have here goes beyond what's required for that very reason, and making sure that people can access the system to go where they want, whether it's a 40-foot bus or one of our paratransit vehicles, is huge for us. So we'll continue to work with the city, and we'll continue to work with other entities as well to make sure that the total system works. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kellyanne Stiles. I'm a mother and grandmother of, can you not hear? I'm Kellyanne Stiles. I'm the mother and grandmother of victims and survivors of sex trafficking, and I'm not a member of Eugene City Club, but I thank you for allowing us to be here. So I wanted to personally thank you for signing the proclamation against human trafficking to try to help in that in January National Human Trafficking Month of this year, 2025. And I'm also grateful that they have now added city LTD buses to the coast, Florence. My daughter and I used to ask them all the time if they would do that. So I see that they now have more. But my questions now are, when you sign that proclamation, what is the active effectiveness of LTD besides doing that? And have you ever thought about sending some of your LTD security guards and supervisors to go to the schools, the local schools from grade school to high school, to let the students, the teachers, and the parents know that when they fear riding the bus, they don't need to because you have all this available, but who to contact when they're on there? Because I've personally spoken to people who don't feel like it's safe, and I said, yeah, there's good and bad that happens. But again, I want to thank you for all the improvements that you've brought since you've been hired and work here. And also, I wanted to ask, is there security guards who actually ride that 1-hour bus to and from Eugene to the Florence? And I promised the people at Green Hill, because I want to volunteer there, but I don't have a car. And they said they've had problems with many people wanting to volunteer, but without a car, they can't get that far out. So I promised I would ask if there's any way you could help get us buses there, close enough to even walk, because they already have a long driveway, but just to get us closer there. Also, last, is there a way we could have buses out for the rodeo, the Eugene Rodeo, down Prairie Road, during the 4th of July Eugene Rodeo? It gets very congested with traffic, so they have to have the Lane County Sheriff out there. But for people like myself, families, elderly, disabled, they have no way to go and enjoy the rodeo because there's no access unless they can find someone to take them. So anyway, thank you, and God bless you.
Okay, that's a 12-parter, Kellyanne.
Well, I haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah, I know. We'll work through it. Let's start with the last one first. So we take federal money. So whenever there's a special event, we have to go by these federal regulations, and there's a process to do that. Okay. We do provide service to the Oregon Country Fair, and we go through that process with them. And part of it is making sure there isn't a private provider that can do that. It's open door service, and then we have to charge fully loaded costs for that. So that's the process. We just can't shift a public asset to do that. Second question, I want to go to the trafficking if I could. Mm-hmm. I talked a bit about our community liaison that we hired, and she, again, she opened our eyes to where we can intersect with needs of our community. We're not training our bus operators to be detectives or to chase and tackle people, but we are training them to recognize signs and to be able to call things in. We have 113 buses, and they're not all out there at the same time, but we have a lot of roving eyes and cameras that are out in our community, and we feel that we can add value as we're doing the work. So we've had our community liaison go take trainings and get involved with Truckers Against Trafficking and other groups, and bring that back into our organization and incorporate that into our training and into our processes along with public safety. So we are keeping an eye on that. The other thing that we're getting involved in is missing and murdered Indigenous women. We're getting involved with that as well. Again, eyes out. We have roaming camera systems. Oftentimes, if you misbehave downtown and there's a bus around, EPD is going to come to our shop and look at the video, and we'll probably see you because of all the cameras that we have in and outside of the vehicles. So we're trying to leverage what's already there to help in other community ways. In terms of the planning question, I'm going to punt. No, I think that we want to be able to serve locations. We certainly want to serve organizations that are doing good for our community. I'm just not in a position in this moment to answer that directly, but I will say anything's possible.
Is that something like for Green Hill and the rodeo? Because I know that you do go out there to country fair and everything, so that's why I thought, well, why not the rodeo? Is that something that would be helpful if we had like a petition circulated from the public to show you how many people are interested and then get their help in helping you do what you need to do to help us access those venues?
In terms of the routing, we would do an analysis on what the routing looks like for Green Hills. In terms of the rodeo, no petition will help. What will help is not a private company willing to do the work and documented, paying full cost, open door service. That's not our regulation, that's the Fed's regulation. They own 80% of the vehicles.
All right, we have time for one more brief one. Thank you.
Hi, Jameson.
Hello, this is going to be hard.
Yes.
I know.
I'm not a City Club member. I'm Jensina Hawkins. I'm co-chair of the Neighborhood Leaders Council. 2 words for you. Airport shuttle.
On it. So we talk about that often, and I got to tell you, this airport is, it's my home airport. I really enjoy it, and Catherine does a really good job managing it. But part of what has been talked about for several years was airport service, and I think we have to find a solution to that, particularly as it continues to add flights and usage goes up. If you've tried to park in the long-term parking, it's hit and miss. It's hit and miss. Our last time we went on vacation, I had to park in the regular parking. There was no parking over there, and my wife almost killed me when I had to pay the parking bill. But if we could have got a bus there, it would have been a whole different experience, and that's something that's on our radar.
Thank you so much. Please join me in thanking Jameson Auten.
Thank you.
This has been our April 25th, 2025 conversation at the City Club of Eugene. Next Monday at 6:30 p.m., we will have our second evening photography event. This is at the Marquee on Country Club Road. This past Monday, we looked at photographs from around the world, and next Monday will be closer to home with Chris Peach of the Registered Guard, so that'll be a fun one on Monday. Next Friday, we'll be coming to you from the Ford Alumni Center on the campus of the University of Oregon for a special program celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Prefontaine Classic. That forum will be followed by a behind-the-scenes tour of historic Hayward Field, with priority going to City Club members. So tie up your track shoes, get your singlets on, and make sure your City Club membership is up to date. Speaking of Prefontaine, good luck to all the runners this weekend who have come to Eugene from every state in the country, and as well as dozens of every state in the nation, as well as dozens of countries around the world. We're so happy that you're here and can't wait to cheer you on. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you soon.